At the conference of people living with HIV a few months ago, the vast majority of people said that when they come to hospitals, they are told to go home and die. And today we say, and the first recommendation we would like to make to our government is, please can the Minister of Health, Dr. Nkomo, and Parliament issue a very clear directive immediately to say that people with HIV need to be treated equally in hospitals. We don't ask for special treatment, we ask for equal treatment.
It was October 1999. I wasn't sick, I was healthy. I just decided to go and make a checkup for myself. Then I found the hepatitis positive.
He fell suddenly ill.
Yeah, I've got that headache that was so strong. That was even coming down right here, all around. All the head was just in pain.
He was taken to one of the local hospitals for diagnosis, and they referred him to a hospital about some hours' drive out of Durban.
At Edmonton there, they just say they cannot admit me because there are shortage of beds. I have to go to Siyayinqoba hospital in Verrelin.
I phoned the doctor to inquire what the circumstances were and whether we couldn't take him to a local hospital. And the doctor said, well, actually, they just like to spread the patients out around the province.
So I decided that no, I cannot go to Siyayinqoba. Then I come to TAC offices where they take me to Makot Hospital. Then I was admitted there for the one night, and in the morning they phoned Ronald Lowe.
Eventually we got him to King Edward, which was the closest hospital that suited him and his family and his friends.
For the first time I was admitted at Heart 5. I think that Heart 5 is just a temporary stay ward.
When he was first admitted, he came in having already been diagnosed with cryptococcal meningitis. It was very clear that he had to go on amphotericin immediately. When he arrived in the hospital, the sister on the ward said there was no amphotericin in that ward. They would try and find it in another ward. And I phoned a few hours later and I spoke to the nurse on duty in the evenings and said no, well, she didn't know anything about this and know that no amphotericin had been found and that in any event the dispensary was closed and would only be opening at 10 o'clock the next day.
Then at Heart 5 it's become full and then they just choose those people they see it. They can make it, they can walk, or they transfer me to D ward.
My first impression was having been utterly appalled at the conditions in the hospital. One was struck immediately by the filth of the wards.
That ward I was going in was a horrible ward because there were no toilet, no tap. Another thing is that this was not clean at all.
We eventually found him down in this little dungeon ward, and the one thing that struck me straight away is that there was dry vomit still on the walls, which hadn't been cleaned up from previous patients, and the floor was black from the dirt. It was black, it was so dirty.
I was crying for the whole night. Not that they don't offer treatment, but there are some patients that come overnight that needs a special attendant.
We were quite appalled, and then it was said to us that he'd had to go and fetch his food himself. I didn't quite believe him at first because he was on an intravenous drip.
They told us that we must close the drip and go where we can get food.
I then realized that in fact this was the case, that the patients in this, let me call it the dungeon ward, had to go and collect their own food because I suspect the nurses couldn't push the trolley because there were stairs.
He was keeping on questioning us, what's really happening in this world? And we said, as you see, what you see is what it is.
I was quite puzzled because when we'd arrived, we had seen odd nurses here and there, collecting food trays, but there wasn't a nursing staff in sight. We eventually found them having a church service. All of them appearing to have be sitting in the church service, nobody attending to any of the patients.
Ronald, he never come for the first night, then he come for after the second night.
Oh, you didn't tell me that the other patients had also complained.
They keep on complaining because even in the morning when they come, their sisters quarreling me that I send a complaint through yourself. Then they decided to take me to the new ward.
I eventually spoke to the deputy's assistant, I forget her name now, and she asked me please to put the complaint in writing. So I said, no, this is a matter of more urgency than writing. Here is somebody who's on an intravenous drip for meningitis, having to climb stairs to fetch his own food. With credit to her, she did sound quite shocked, and she said she would look into it immediately.
Then the following day, there comes two sisters. They were screaming like saying, you wanna lose, they cannot lose job through us.
Well, the next day, when I went to visit Sibusiso again in the dungeon, the lights still weren't on. The same teacups on the windowsills were still there, and the smell of urine was still there, but Sibusiso wasn't. He'd been taken away. And he had been taken to another ward.
N5B ward was in good condition, not the ward, was a real ward, because even those people who are working in that ward, night shift staff, they cannot sleep. You can, even when you wake up from sleep, you can see sister moving around, checking that you don't have problems.
At least in the other ward, which was exceptionally overcrowded, there was at least an air of activity and assistance going on and so on, which I think was more congenial.
First of all, the doctor said I'm going to get about 10 drugs through injection. Then also they gave me that for 10 days. Then also they gave me the fluconazole. After maybe 4 days, they've been treated me with the injection. Then they said I have to get the fluconazole because my headache was so strong, so they need to make things easily.
I think the hospital should create, in a sense, a hotline where complaints can be taken up immediately. And patients should know about this, patients should be informed.
Treatment insuku ezishumi kanjalo sekuhlanganisiwe nefluconazole nansi engiyona engiyisebenzisayo thola nje elilodwa ngelanga iphilisi elilodwa ngelanga so iyona ke ifluconazole lena bese ke ngitshelwa ukuthi angisebenzise yona ngoba iyona ezokwazi ukungisiza ngiphume empela esibhedlela hayi sengiphilile sengizizwa ukuthi hayi angisenayo inkinga. I was so shocked that I was suffered for things that need to be sorted out by the fluconazole because the last week we were at Pfizer at Pietermaritzburg fighting for that reducing of the price of fluconazole. Then that fluconazole, I wasn't know that it will help me. It's impossible for one table to be taken daily for 34 rand. That means government or any sectors, these company drugs, they have to do something to improve the prices of fluconazole.
And to make it very real for people sitting here, many of us here have had thrush. I've had thrush, and because I was not on a medical aid, it cost me about 5,500 rand, which is more than triple therapy, to get rid of a really bad case of thrush. I have a cousin who have AIDS, and I personally illegally imported from Thailand at 450 rand what I paid 5,000 rand for.